Okay. I cannot actually see anyone. Can someone unmute and tell me if this works?
It works.
Thanks. I don't know why I can't see anyone, Reagan. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, you're all on your own.
Cool.
You're just talking at a screen.
Lovely. I like talking to myself. Number one strength. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming tonight. It's so cool to be invited to present at one of these, and I'm really excited to share, I guess, what I have accumulated about IPPs, especially over the last, how long has COVID been? 9 months. IPPs have been my crutch to get my program through COVID, and I'm now like very in love with them. I should really start by saying that none of this is mine, that I don't have, the ownership rights to any of this this information, as any coach would probably admit. Like I borrow and I steal. Well, maybe stealing is a harsh word, but I like to, learn from others and then try to apply to myself. So yeah, that's been my process with the IPP journey that I've been on. So just a little bit about me, I guess. I'm the U17 provincial team coach here in Alberta. I'm also the women's coach at Mount Royal University for the past year and a half, although the half, as I'm sure Sarah and Iz would say, has been a weird half. So feels more like a year and then it's been on pause, but hoping for a better second year when it gets to happen. Okay, so IPPs. First of all, what in the world is an IPP? Well, it stands for an individual performance plan. So pretty straightforward. Basically, when we're talking about getting better at anything, we want to make sure that we are creating a roadmap. We're creating a journal and a way to decide whether or not we're going to work on things, and then how much better we did get in the time we had. So for an individual performance plan, you could break it down into so many different pieces. A couple that we spend a lot of time on at the university level are skills and concepts. So skills could be, for some levels, ball handling, shooting. For us, we talk a ton about closeouts, tough positions. So lots of things you could put into that category. Concepts, off-ball screens, DHOs, ball screens, gets have been our newest discovery. And then we talk a lot about movement principles. So other things, I guess, that could fall into separate IPPs would be your physical fitness. Most athletes, especially at our level, that are undertaking, workout programs are being very directed and very intentional about what they're doing. And this could be about their strength, about their conditioning, about returning from an injury. So there's tons to think of there. Another one, and this is something I'd like to learn and spend a lot more time on, is nutrition. Obviously, you could really break down your habits of nutrition. You could work a lot on your organization, on your prep. Meal prepping is a lifeline for me, and then a lot of journaling to see how it's going. And then I do have psychology on here, but I'm not going to touch on that because that's Izzy's topic, and I'm not going to steal that one from her. So, but another thing that you could focus on with IPPs. Okay, so why would you use them? Why did we start at Mount Royal? COVID. I'll be frank, a lot of coaching at this level is trying to keep up with your neighbors, and just trying to stay relevant enough. And I felt like our whole first year, as my assistant coach Josh would agree with, we were just trying to stay on top of things enough to not get lost. But when COVID hit, and when we kind of just realized that we weren't going to get the time in the gym, or maybe a real season, Josh and I spent a lot of time talking about getting better, and what did that look like when you couldn't train with more than 7 athletes in the gym at once. There wasn't always gym time available. how could we use the time to improve. So we decided that, you know, IPPs were a great way to make steps forward, and yeah, we were super excited about the opportunity. To be frank, a lot of this comes from Mike McKay, who I know is on this call, so thanks, Mike. But our national team is doing it, and I spent a ton of time when I was at the U of A in Edmonton, you know, trying to be a fly on the wall during their practices, or just sticking my head in the gym to see if there was something I could learn during one drill. And I think this was something that I saw at the beginning of every practice for them, and I saw as a big topic of conversation for them. And you know, if they're doing it, why wouldn't we? I've also noticed that WNBA and NBA teams are also utilizing this. Big shout out to the Toronto Raptors, like Sarah said, but a former, I guess, opponent of mine in high school, Shelby Weaver, she's now with Toronto, and she's doing a lot of their development and a lot of their player improvement stuff. And she talked about, you know, how diligent they are, how detail oriented they are with it. And so it really, you know, turned my head to, well, again, like if the WNBA and the NBA are doing it, like why are we not? So I think that this is something that you could use at any level. I have coached every level possible. And I think, you know, club, high school, community, anytime you have a team and you have athletes and you have the opportunity to coach them, this is a great way to, you know, be intentional about your growth plan. So, you know, whenever you're coaching an athlete, the goal should be that they're getting better. I know that a lot of, you know, a lot of people will talk about the coach who, you know, all they're doing is teaching a press and a zone press and not a lot of concepts or skills, and the kids leave that program and they, you know, their basketball IQ hasn't improved. And I think that we're getting away from that as a general consensus, and we're getting into a place where it's like, you know, we want to get kids better. We want there to be improvement. So it's all about, you know, actively engaging in their development plan. So I do have a few different, I guess, ideas and ways that you could go about creating an IPP. But a few thoughts that I have, again, this is kind of just me stumbling along, learning about how other people run IPPs, and then, you know, making changes and molding it so it fits our program, our kids, because it's about them for me. So, you know, the IPPs need to fit your athlete and your program. So, you know, is it actually reasonable to accomplish in the time that you have with the resources that you can use? It doesn't make sense maybe for a high school coach to be talking about using all this extra gym time, or trying to add a weight room component, you know, if that isn't something that you're in control of. You know, it's super important that you're being intentional and that you're using what you have and being smart about that. So a few thoughts that I just had to get started with IPPs. You know, decide which realms of performance that you want to focus on. So really be athlete minded in this approach. So it might be easy to say, well, we really will win a lot of games if we run a lot of pressure scenarios. Well, is that going to make your athlete better in the long run? You know, I think it's more about them than it is about us. And so we have to make sure that we're always helping the athlete and trying to grow where they need to grow. Another thing is just to determine when and how you're going to incorporate whatever your IPP looks like into your training plan. And then make sure you're communicating it with the athlete and recording the plan so that you can refer back to it and evaluate it. You know, any plan without you know, evaluation and debrief is not much of a plan at all. So you need to make sure that you're using it as an opportunity to reflect. So a few different ideas when it comes to creating IPPs. I have a couple that I've kind of stolen from others. These aren't the way that I have done it. I've just, again, Josh and I have really like molded it into our own thing. But I know that SAFU and some of the WNBA teams have gone with what they're calling a vitamins approach. So the general idea is that it's a lot of basic skill work or individual growth that tends to get missed or pushed aside. There was one video I watched where they were talking about an athlete who was incredible. Defensively, she was like a real lockdown defender. But her offense, like her scoring, needed work, or it just needed growth. And so, when she would run drills, she would stay on offense the whole time because what she really liked was playing defense, and what she really needed was to grow offensively. So that's one little story. But I mean, some teams are using the vitamins approach to really break down just skills that are either positional, so the little big division, or you could be complementary about it. So you're pairing your guards and your bigs to get some learning across there. I really like this one, and it's kind of been part of how we have ended up doing it. A second, and this is from Mark, so thanks, Mark, is using the gold medal model from Canada basketball to be very directed with athletes in terms of how they're going to grow and what they need to grow on. So this is the gold medal model. I don't know, it's very small words, but you can see that there's a lot of stuff on there and it's incredible. So basically, the way that this was used was it was given to the athlete, and then they were asked to go through it and pinpoint things that they felt like they should work on, and then it was discussed with the coaches. So I thought that was such a phenomenal idea, is to almost have like a rubric, and the athletes go and be very on their own in terms of making decisions about what they need to grow. So I think that it was cool to hear that other people have been doing this, other people are using this, and the rubric model was really effective for him. You can see that it included like the athletes and the coaches kind of sitting down one-on-one, prioritizing items, and then making them a focus. So the athletes, were the ones who really determined their growth on those things and their time put in. And then I guess there's us. So we went a lot with a small group approach. So basically the biggest thing was in our preseason meetings, we talked with each athlete about identifying areas for improvement. And a lot of that came just because we're so fortunate, obviously, to spend so much time with them. It came from all the time that we had in the summer to identify, areas for improvement and growth. So we compiled it into a document that I shared with each of them, and then we both have access to it. We both have responsibility for it. And we turned it into like small group sessions that we're running 2 or 3 times a week, kind of depended on our practice schedule before we got obviously shut down. But working on 3 to 4 athletes at a time in these smaller groups on a single skill or a concept. It could be as big as ball screens. It could be as small as hedging properly on a ball screen. So we did a lot of our organizing the groups from the IPPs, and I thought it was a really awesome thing that the athletes bought into incredibly. And it was fun to see them get excited about their growth and their learning. So for everyone here, I think, especially in COVID, when all of us are really trying to sort out how do we use what we have now as not as lost time as gain time. take what others do and make it work for you. If you see someone doing something, don't be afraid to, borrow it, steal it, however you want to say it, and then tailor it to your situation and your people, whatever age, whatever, type of group you're working with. I think it can really benefit the athletes individually. And for me as a young coach, I didn't get to coach teams. I did a lot of skill development, and that was something that Josh and I talked about a ton this summer. Was we'd almost gone away from the skill development and just like, okay, we're scouting this team and we have to work on this ball screen defense, and there wasn't as much time spent on the, like, how are we getting this player better at this thing. So, for me, it's trying, failing, trying again. As a coach, I think we ask this of our athletes constantly. And so for us to demonstrate that by doing it ourselves, I think that's a huge part of servant leadership. So it's a big deal to me that I'm demonstrating to our athletes that's important. So yeah, I think that's kind of it. I will stop sharing.